Well, what's going on, everybody? It's Adiyar back with another video, and today we've got something a little bit different. It looks like the CM Andre for Torchlight. They dropped a video on their official channel. Looks to be about 7 hours ago, and it looks like they are going to be going over what their personal takeaways from this league, and also discussing the future of the game going forward into into season 7 and beyond. So I just wanted to take a look at that. See what their takeaways were, see if they match what my own opinions of the season were, what some of the general opinions I've seen from other people are, and then go from there. So if this is something that you're interested in, go ahead and feel free to, turn on the video, sit back and relax, and let's have a chat. Also, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and throw me a sub or a like on the video. I greatly appreciate it. We are doing, well, I am doing, I don't know why I keep saying we. I am currently doing a fresh account playthrough of Torchlight Infinite, taking a account from level 1 all the way to Profound with no pack spirit, no battle pass, basically pay to win. None of the pay to win stuff that everybody typically will talk about. So pure free to play. So if that's something that you're interested in, check out the streams. I'll probably be doing a stream tonight. It's a bit it's a bit touch and go right now, just because the holidays are kind of interrupting plans that I have, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop into this.
Manager. It's been over 1 month since the Frozen Canvas season launch, and you guys might be wondering what took us so long to finally get around to doing a community Q&A, kind of a recap type of video. So basically, the Frozen Canvas was a very special season. We totally overdid some of our core game mechanics, and especially coming over from Clockwork Ballet, the change was huge. Like, a lot of players felt that they need to learn the game all over again. It was in many ways a new game altogether. And when the season first
kinda
came online, well, two things happened. One was that the learning curve was huge for many players, whether new or returning. And
I don't know if it was the learning curve that I would call huge. It was just the walls to get from to go between tiers were way bigger than I expected them to be. Especially the 7 to 8 wall. I don't think anybody was expecting it to be as big as it was.
Second, that we kind of overshot the difficulty for this season. So
yeah.
What happened with that? Every time we were preparing to do one of these videos, the development team thought, no, we actually need to put out a patch, we need to put out an update, we need to kind of redo that, and so on and so forth. And these things kind of went on back and forth, and yeah, every time we were planning to shoot one of these, the game was getting a massive patch, so we kind of had to put everything on hold. Now the season has been out for 1 month. We feel like we worked out many of the kinks that came with the season launch, mostly in regards to overshooting the difficulty curve. As you guys might know, the Supreme Showdown has been nerfed several times so far.
Oh, I question that right there. Yes, you've nerfed the Supreme Showdown, but the Supreme Showdown is still absolutely ridiculous and only done by a very specific handful of builds.
We are still getting a lot of questions regarding a potential future nerf, and we'll get to that very soon. But yeah, the difficulty curve has been adjusted. Things should feel a lot smoother. And, as players kind of grew with the season, feedback actually got a lot better. And we feel like we're at a point where we're quite satisfied with the Frozen Canvas. Of course, there's always a ton of room to improve. And yeah, today's video is all about going over community feedback, how you guys feel about this season, where it sits right now, the future direction of Torchlight Infinite, and hopefully a quick glimpse at what's coming in our future season. So yeah.
Before we get started, one of the biggest things that I want to see changed, personally, is just, can we just have some additional optional avenues for finding damage? Because I've said this numerous times at this point. If you remove the strength, intelligence, or dexterity based damage items, so like Israfel's, Magnus's, etc., the amount of playable builds that are left after you take those items out of the game is just so small. I don't think I've seen a single actual attack based build that's not like a non-dot attack based build that isn't a pure stacker with one of those items, be it strength or dex. I don't think I can find a single example of that. I'd be happy to be proven wrong, but
Thoughts about the current state of endgame scaling, mostly from Timemark 8.0 onward. The DPS and defensive requirements jump massively each tier, and I'm left with the impression that only 1 or 2 builds can realistically farm Profound Timemark 8. So there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, this season was a new exploration, essentially, into how we would like to address endgame difficulty. We do want to make endgame more expansive. We do want players to spend more time interacting with each of the in-game mechanics, exploring everything that the game has to offer, and really putting some thought into how they should squeeze out that last percentage of progress before, they can start mapping a new tier, for example. Now, we did have some issues, of course. The main being the difficulty spike, which coupled with the very weak FE drops in Timemark 7 and 8 were obviously a massive issue.
Yeah, the damage thresholds that I suggest to people, bare minimum to go into Timemark 8.0, I would not go in there before 200 million. I wouldn't even consider Profound before 40 billion, and you're not even going to be able to do like half of the mechanics at that damage range. And you're going to be eating a lot of deaths just because you're just leaving things alive on the screen for too long. And then going into the jump from Profound into Deep Space is just astronomical.
Now, by the time that I'm recording this video, FE drops in both Timemark 7 and early Timemark 8 have been buffed since the...
I definitely can attest to that. My first character got no fee in Timemark 7 at all. None. Not a single one. And I've done testing in Timemark 7 now. It's not going to be like a fee every map, but over the course of a mapping session, you will find something. It's not a lot. Like, I think the last test I did was 100 map runs in Timemark 7. And what was it? 15 fee that dropped? But 15 versus 0 is just, that is literally an infinite increase, is it not?
The season launch, so that should hopefully help players.
And in Timemark 8, it does feel pretty okay. I think just the raw fee drops.
Also an issue that we are aware, which is that the bump in difficulty at Timemark 8 was a bit overwhelming for some players.
Yeah, it was.
That the difficulty spike in Timemark 8 might be a bit too much, and we might adjust it going forward.
To be fair, I don't think people realized at the beginning how impactful just crafting out your gear was going to be. Because like getting full T2 and when you're in Timemark 7 just massively prepares you for Timemark 8, in my opinion. I don't know too many builds that if you're rocking full T2, you can't start your Timemark 8s.
Next up, one of this season's hottest topics, the Supreme Showdown. How many people are expected to clear this event? Players are estimating their DPS to be 10 trillion and still having difficulty. Is this?
Yeah.
Long story short, yes. The Supreme Showdown was designed to be inherently difficult. It was designed to be the hardest of the hard endgame content, and it was accordingly also designed to be very rewarding. Now,
problem is you also use that as a way to state that you were giving people a way to farm out a pet, and realistically the people that need those pets probably aren't the ones getting those pets, it is the seasoned sweats that are clearing level 20 and getting the pets. Like if anybody started this season and cleared Showdown 20, I'll be hella impressed. And if that number is more than like, if that number is in the double digits, I would wager less than 5 new players have actually cleared that. Realistically. Oh, even not even new players. Like, I know a lot of seasoned players that don't even do it. Like I watched somebody do that fight and I was just like, you know what? I'd rather just do videos and stuff for people that are just coming into the game. It's just I couldn't be bothered, man. And I'd like one of the pets, but I just like that's it's a pure commitment, and I just couldn't do it, dude.
And and this goes against our overall design philosophy because we do hope that, well, first, all heroes should be equally balanced, and secondly, we hope that players can be more creative and diverse in regards to their gameplay builds rather than just playing to the meta.
But again, I think we're going to go back to this stat stacking thing quite a bit, because it's hard to be diverse when there's no damage to be found outside of specific legendaries, right? It's very, very hard to be diverse when your only option for so many builds is to simply put on the stat stacking legendaries, because if you don't, there is just simply not enough damage to be had on a build.
So what we saw this season was that we kind of overtuned game balancing, and sadly some builds were hurt. So to answer your question, yes, it was.
I mean, there are whole heroes that just don't function properly right now that really have to be addressed next season.
Heroes, and that was an issue of balancing. The good news is that the tokens from the event are capped for each season. So basically, if you cannot complete the last floor of the Supreme Showdown this season, you're going to keep all your tokens until the next season. So, you know, basically you just clear a few stages, easy peasy, and then you can exchange them for your Pack Spirit. Next up, a question about everyone's favorite.
All right, well, I mean, the tokens carrying over is good. It still feels very disingenuous what was stated before the season launch and what we have now in regard to being able to farm a Pack Spirit. It feels very disingenuous. It feels very rug pully.
Favorite commodity. Do you plan on making Flame Sand usable past early?
For the love of God, please give us something. I've deleted like 100,000 Flame Sand.
So this season you can expect the game economy to be pretty much locked, meaning we're not going to be making any adjustments to any commodities, how they
obviously,
anything like that. But we are aware of the issue of the oversupply with Flame Sand, and next season we're going to be doing something to address it. That does not mean it's going to be turning it into bound FE or not. At the moment, it's still in talks. Next up, question coming from Hardcore and Solo Self.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
You're looking to giving extra functions for things like revive coins and tax vouchers. They are currently useless in Hardcore and SSF respectively, so having something else to redeem for them would be nice. Yeah, so obviously we are.
All right, look, listen, personal opinion here. Maybe, look, this is my opinion, not the devs. Hardcore and SSF in this game are purely there to say that they're there, and like, in my opinion, I don't think they put much development time into this, and I don't think that they would have even addressed this had they not been specifically asked about it.
Are aware that, you know, it doesn't really make sense to have revive vouchers in Hardcore or to have tax vouchers in SSF. And it's been something on our mind, but we can't just change these two things independently, because the issue with Hardcore and SSF as they stand right now is that they honestly need to have their whole events and rewards package revised. So that's something that's going to need to be looked at as a whole in order to be implemented successfully.
Yeah, it's going to need actual dev time put into it.
It's going to be a relatively large workload, so no ETA yet. Next up, a question about Motto. Are the Motto hero traits working as they should, or are they really?
Ooh, boy.
Say that you are working on. To be perfectly honest, I would like to say that they are bugged, because then we could actually easily fix it, but no, they are not bugged. Motto was just overtuned this season, and yeah, Motto is, as you guys can see from the Supreme Showdown rankings, well, he needs a rebalance, to say it nicely. And obviously that's something that's going to be coming in the next season. And now the have successfully completed the 20th stage of the Supreme Showdown with Motto. And the only advice that I can give is that, well, if the players still haven't, you know, unequipped their whole gear or just deleted their account altogether, go look at their builds. And from what I can remember, most players were actually using Bing's gear, you know, stuff that is basically not related to Motto's hero.
Yeah, like you're not, like you were actually clearing that with an actual Moto build. That's why people were clearing it and then immediately taking their shit off so nobody could see how they did it, because you're not clearing that with an actual Moto build. You were just putting on You just had Omega gear from another character build and put it on him and then got the clear that way.
Traits that also. Yeah, just ignore Moto's hero traits.
He's in such a bad state right now.
He's just weak this season. We're sorry about it. We're going to rebalance it as soon as possible. Next up, a question about difficulty and endgame. In the new season, the game feels like it caters only to the top 1%. People that don't play 5+ hours daily are starved from FE and good items. SSF is almost dead. Leaderboards are almost empty on SSF. Can we count?
SSF is not a thing in this game. It just isn't.
Item drops, unlocking progression, Atlas nodes, bonuses behind test time gated path of progression. For the most part, no, we are not planning to revert the changes that were implemented with the Frozen Canvas, because we do believe that it leads to a much more fleshed out, complete, mature, deep gameplay experience. Now, as you said, the endgame this season was very difficult. Are we planning to make it easier? No, not necessarily.
All right, so path of progression is going to be a permanent fixture, it sounds like. I mean, if that's going to be the case, could we maybe get that fixed up just a bit? It oftentimes does not. And oftentimes you'll do something on your path of progression and then have to do it again because you didn't have it unlocked at the time, so you got no credit for it. Also, there's a lot of stuff locked behind those later levels. Drop quantity being locked behind so many of those levels doesn't feel very great. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff locked behind that thing for it to not be updating accurately.
But what we are going to try to do is make the difficulty curve going basically from, you know, the tutorial. So basically first getting into the Netherrealm, Time Arc 7, into Time Arc 8, and the early stages of Time Arc 8 feel a little bit smoother and easier, so that, you know, players can start fleshing out their own build without as much resistance, basically. Next up, a question about...
Okay.
In one of your latest dev blogs, you spoke about not making as many sweeping changes patch over patch. Does this mean you'll be taking a more similar approach to development of reworking systems as they are needed in a manner comparable to Path of Exile, where reworks are only done in the case of complete failure of the mechanic? So I'm going to give you the quick answer right away, and yes, we are not going to be making as many changes to core gameplay mechanics, and we are going to be redirecting more of our efforts to new content. Now the long answer is we are satisfied with the changes that the Frozen Canvas brought. Of course, as we've previously mentioned, the learning curve was huge for previous players, especially if you were coming from Clockwork Ballet or even some older seasons which were relatively simple and easy in comparison. It does feel like the game suddenly got a lot harder, endgame got a lot more complex because it was asking of you to interact with more gameplay mechanics, it was asking of you to be more patient, to be more inquisitive even. But of course, we've got to be perfectly honest here. As many of you might have noticed, we had some relative success this season, whether it be on the game side of things, or, you know, even on social media. Like, I get creators all the time. I was just talking to Gooba a while back, and he was telling me, like, wow, this was the best season I've ever had on my channel. Like, this matched the Clockwork Ballet peak for like 2 months on end.
I don't want to put this out. I don't want to please understand this is not me being disparaging towards TLI or the developers. But I do think a part of the success that was found this season was in part due to other things kind of delaying themselves. I feel if those delays had not happened, that things might have been going differently. I don't know. Like, even my own channel, for example, I don't know if I could say with any kind of confidence that even like the number of people that have found my channel after I started it would have even looked its direction had other things not been delayed. Do I think this season has more staying power than the previous seasons? Yes. It's even before I started making videos, I was retained. That's the word, right? I was retained longer than previous seasons. I don't know if all of that is because of the changes made this season, but some of it surely was. But again, there's also things that very, very much need work. Like, there are things that like heroes just don't. A lot of the heroes don't even have their identity anymore. So yeah, that's pretty core to the game.
So we do think that the changes, albeit painful during the season launch, were necessary, and they did set a more stable base for long term.
Which is fine as long as you reiterate on this and improve it.
More of these massive revamps every single season, and more focus is going to be put on new content. As always, we have a question about the dummy. The dummy cap is 1 trillion, but you need closer to 15 to clear the endgame boss to get all the unlockables. I assume he's referring to the last stage of the Supreme Showdown. And he goes on to ask if we have any plans to revise the dummy's damage cap and so on and so forth. Basically, no, we are not planning to revise the dummy's damage cap, but what we are probably gonna do is some sort of number crunch so that the actual damage required to clear endgame content doesn't need to be so extreme and doesn't need to be something that, you know, you can't even account for with the dummy. No plan with the dummy, maybe a number crunch. And yeah, that's just funny because I was watching an interview with Jonathan from PoE a few days back, and he was actually making a joke about massive numbers in action RPGs, and I was like, huh. Next up, a question.
I mean, look, I mean, one of those two things you've got to do, right? Like, not like having such high damage stipulations and then not knowing what the hell your damage is kind of mind-boggling. Hopefully if they do a number crunch, they get it right. It is very much possible to fuck that up. So we'll see how that goes.
Question about legacy items. Did you make sealed mana on legacy items on purpose, an item breaker with them having minus instead of a positive effect? No, obviously we do not intend to break legacy items, but they, due to the nature of their legacy status, they might have been in some ways forgotten during the development of this latest season, and they might need to be revisited eventually.
I have no dog in this fight. I have nothing to speak on. I don't play any legacy or standard in this game at all.
Or nerf legacy items, legacy content. It was just something that inadvertently happened and might need to be revisited. Next up, someone who's really happy about Wilt. People are stacking thousands of stacks of Wilt via Spellburst plus Path of Flames, that is a tongue twister, and mobility slates, LMAO, LMAO. Do the devs like the Burning servers calculating thousands of Wilt on hundreds of mobs per second? Great design, by the way. There's a lot to be unpacked here. So first of all, obviously, Wilt is very strong this season. It might need to be balanced a little bit, but also we do like leaving some creativity in the hands of players to do some crazier stuff. And regarding server load, well, that was actually an issue this season because we did have some builds that were actually lagging out entire servers. I'm not sure if you were just mentioning that as a joke or it was something that you experienced yourself, but yes, going forward, we are going to have to address some builds that are actually putting extraneous, excessive loads on our servers.
Sure, makes sense.
Going back to the question, Wilt was a bit overpowered. We're aware.
Wilt is insane. Reap is insane.
Next up, 2 questions regarding the Frozen Canvas seasonal mechanic. First up, would it be possible to adjust the drop rate of new support skills so that they can appear in all paints with higher level paints offering a higher chance? To be perfectly honest, no, not in our plans. Doesn't go with our current gameplay progression grand scheme of things. No.
Okay. My question is, how is that going to feel going into seasons where Canvas isn't on every map and isn't the league mechanic? Because I can tell you personally, I've done a shit ton of Canvas. I've not found a single support that was worth more than 85 fee. I mean, I've seen people rip multiples out of there that are like 100, 200, 600 fee a piece. Hasn't happened to me. So I know it can happen, but it's also it's very easy to just not pull anything of value from that. And then I also question what is our access to these supports going to look like in a season where Canvas is not the main focus? Because if not everybody's going to be running Canvas, and even this season when it's the focus of the league, not everybody wants to run Canvas. There are a lot of people that just like the gameplay and don't touch it. So are we going to be increasing those drop rates to address the fact that it's not going to be the seasonal mechanic going forward? Or are these supports just going to be extremely rare and just inherently extremely expensive due to their rareness?
Additionally, many boards often don't align with the mixing objectives, as has been noted many times in the suggestion channels on Discord. Yeah, the mixing objectives themselves will be looked at, and either we
That's good.
some of them out or we simplify them. You know, especially as the mechanic eventually goes on to become a mainstay mechanic, a legacy mechanic. It's not going to be the current seasonal mechanic.
Right.
Probably better to be simplified a little bit to take out the more frustrating bits. So yeah, we'll be looking at mixing objectives. Next up, a question about quality of life on the permanent server. On a permanent server, we are able to use the
no dog in this fight.
unable to use the auto pack features. Since the permanent server is so connected to the seasonal server, would you consider allowing more quality of life to transfer over? And then we have another one also related to quality of life in the permanent server. And they're basically asking why can't they use the pack swapping feature in permanent server?
I'm gonna just skip past this. I have no dog in this fight at all.
Next up, is the chest of folklore affected by the path of progression? No. Will the top-up bonuses be reset next year? Yes. Next question about endgame mapping. Compared to Profound, I'm not convinced that Deep Space is any more rewarding at all. The beacons for Deep Space are about 4 to 5 times more expensive than regular Time Mark 8 beacons. I've been running Deep Space for an hour or two, and the drops feel like I'm in Profound, but it's much harder. So basically,
I've heard that sentiment from quite a few people. There are a lot of people that say Deep Space is worth it, but there's also a lot of people that say Deep Space is just not worth it at all.
The way that Deep Space was designed is that it's a high investment, high return game mode. So of course you can invest much more when you're juicing Deep Space maps, and that was kind of the assumption that was put behind it. So basically, if you want to have a good, rewarding, profitable Deep Space mapping strategy, you do need to put a certain investment into it. Now, another question is Deep Space profitable enough to be worth the hassle? That is a different question altogether, and that might be something that we need to discuss separately going forward. Next,
probably, yeah.
Can you please make Path of Progression work retrospectively?
Please, for the love of Jesus.
I already checked prices 20 times or consumed FE in Auction House, but since I was stuck on previous phases, I have to do it again. This is extremely bad design in my opinion. True. Yes, we are aware of it. It's really annoying, dude. This happened to me a ton of times. It's, you know, just going back doing the same thing over and over again. We are aware of it. It's something that we're going to try to improve. Hopefully by the next season, the path of progression should work very differently. And, you know, each time you unlock a new tier, anything that you already did before should, you know, just be ticked off automatically, and you don't have to, like, go price check 1 million times.
Yeah, like I got triggered when I had already used legendary wedges, and then it just kept asking me to use more of them, and I'm like, this is a waste of my fucking time. It's a waste of my money. Like, what am I doing? Like, why are these not counted like, it's just,
you know what I mean.
It was toxic, bro.
Next up, a question about the Supreme Showdown. Will hero name cards carry over to the next season? I believe the majority of players won't be able to clear floor 20 due to how tanky the boss and even trillions take forever to kill him. So yes, the tokens from the Supreme Showdown are gonna be carried over to future seasons. So even if you can't clear stage 20 this season, you know, they're gonna be carried over to the next season, and you can just clear a few more stages next season, and yeah, you got your pack. And hopefully next season, hero traits are gonna be balanced better. Players won't be needing to play to the meta as much, and we're going to see a wider variety of builds and hero traits finishing the Supreme Showdown. Finally, something that has...
I really, really, really hope that we see some very good rebalancing to character builds and hero traits, because, I mean, here, again, I keep saying this, but it's true. Like so many, like, especially if you're playing a actual attack build, for example, like, because spells at the end game target for spells is essentially spell burst, because it's so busted right now. Surging inspiration is insane. Spell burst is insane. Activation burst is insane. But if you want to play an attack build and you don't want to use the stat stacker chests or anything like that, you're kind of fucked.
Come up a lot in our questions. PoE.
Also, if you're not if you're not doing a stat stacker chest or playing a dot build as an attack build, you're I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm sorry.
2? Are we concerned about it? Do we think it's going to take away a lot of our player base?
Yes.
Do you have any plans about it?
Yes.
Well, first of all, to be perfectly honest, we're excited about PoE 2. We're excited about early access. I'm going to be checking it out as well. It's a good thing for the industry. Like, PoE has done tons for the ARPG genre as a whole. We're fans. We're excited for it. It's also doing so much for the genre that you kind of see this gravitational pull around the game that is even bringing a lot of casual or non-ARPG players to the genre, which
Right.
you think is a good thing. Now, regarding concerns,
Yeah, and I've mentioned this before because I've had people, even in my live streams, asking me if I think the devs know or care about anything that the other games in the genre are doing, and I've had to tell them, yeah, they're pretty, like they're not blind. To think that they don't pay attention to what the other games in their genre are doing is just foolish. You cannot be a smaller game and just ignore what the big dogs are doing, because you will overlap them and you'll get crushed. And it's just, it is what it is. Like them not paying attention would be completely foolish. And they've shown that they do pay attention and they will make adjustments as necessary.
let's answer that twofold. So first of all, the Frozen Canvas has been out for a while, and you know, we don't think that players have to stick on to each season forever. We do think that we just want to give players a good experience. We want players to come in fresh for a new season, check out what's new, have a really good time, have a really fun time. And when that is done and said, they can move on, play the new season on any other ARPG, have fun. And then when we come back with a good product, a good season, then they can come back to Torchlight and have fun again. So yeah, PoE 2 is scheduled for December 6th. By the time that comes around, we do think that players have had a lot of time with the Frozen Canvas.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to take people from us. And yeah, that is normal and part of the game. But yeah, to put it shortly, we're excited for it ourselves. A lot of us are fans of the game. We think it's good for the genre to have more attention, to have more people coming into the genre. And yeah, so that's all for today.
Also helpful is just especially this season, just the really positive, like the positive eyes that we've gotten this season from the primary PoE streamers has been amazing. Like just for example, I've mentioned this one before. Alkaiser literally called out. Alkaiser essentially stated that, in his opinion, this is the second best ARPG on the market after PoE. So, I mean, that's pretty high praise in my opinion.
Thank you for joining, and remember to claim one of these before they expire. And remember to stay tuned to our official socials for more news regarding...
Hey, yo, there's a gift code. Let's turn that in.
We're going to be posting more news about our upcoming season as soon as possible. That's all for today, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
All right. Well, that was the video. I don't know. I said what I had to say during the actual reaction. I hope that we get additional avenues to damage and like build options in the upcoming season. I really hope we rein in these characters and give them back their identity, because some of them just don't have an identity. They don't have a real space, and you're just kind of like forcing it. It's just, it is what it is. Past that, I hope Path of Progression gets looked at like they said. I hope that Showdown gets addressed. I feel like Showdown is just disingenuous in what it was presented to be and what it actually is. And I don't like saying that, but it's the truth. That's how I feel about it. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I will be streaming the Level 1 to Profound sometime today. I don't know if it's going to be this afternoon or this evening, but feel free to join me. I'll be streaming live on both YouTube and Twitch now. We have gotten YouTube streaming up and running. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.